Welcome everyone who joined this webinar. The idea for this webinar came up when 2 weeks ago, Amelia and I were going to meet for a walk, but my family had to self-isolate, so we had a video call instead. And throughout the call, we were just talking about remote working and how people are going to adjust to this new normal. And so we had so many ideas and we were brainstorming, and we thought we need to do a webinar to actually share our insights of personal experiences and experiences of our clients. And so this webinar, the idea of this webinar was born. Both Amelia and I have the expertise in helping professionals reset their lives, and we wanted to share it to help you settle into this new way we live right now. So it's Anya speaking at the moment, and before I became a coach 5 years ago, I had been a solicitor for 13 years. And after having my kids, I reduced my hours and successfully worked remotely, which was progressive for a legal consultancy job. My passion has always been to motivate people and empower women in particular. And I founded my company to help female lawyers recover after childbirth and fulfill their potential. And I live in London with my husband, who works in a fintech startup, and our two boys, who are 6 and 3 years old, so handful. And I let Amelia introduce herself.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Amelia. I'm a leadership and impact coach, and I founded Kinesthetica Coaching just last year. I've worked with corporates both as a coach and as a workplace strategist for 13 years. So I've been in the teaching, coaching, mentoring arena for a long old while, and I really feel that I'm an expert in creative leadership and workplace innovation as well. I also, in a former life, trained as a classical actor. I coach people in authentic presentation style as well. So it really does tie in very well with what we're talking about today. I'm covering off work within effective communication and seeing that from different angles. That's what I'll be sharing with you today.
Great. Thank you, Amelia. So what we would like you to get out of today are the practical tips that you can trial straight away at home and with your teams at work to feel calmer and more in control in these very uncertain times. And so here is the plan. We will start by setting the scene. Then I will talk about building resilience. Then Amelia will take the work perspective and talk about effective communication for the work environment. And then I will be back with the home perspective and give you practical time management tools to work from home and manage kids and homeschooling. So that's the plan.
Yes.
Amelia?
And just a little bit about this virtual space. I'd like to design in with you all. Actually, we are recording this. There are a few people who couldn't join us today, so we're going to send this along to them. We hope that that's all right with you all. Just a bit about timekeeping. Anya is a mother of two, as she's mentioned, and she's got her husband on home duty, but at the crack of the hour, she will be back to being a mum. So we will definitely be keeping to time today. I'll give us a little time check in about 10 minutes to go. And we have the chat space open for you. Off to the side, it should be on the right-hand side for you if you press the chat button. Pop any questions in there as we go along. We'll also make sure that there's time for questions after each section, but feel free to add them anytime as and when they come up. So over to you, Anya, about building resilience.
Thank you. So building resilience, why this topic? In these uncertain times, we are all worried and overwhelmed, thinking how long the lockdown is going to last, how long the virus is going to affect us in such a scale. We are worried about the health of our parents, children, our own. We're anxious about money and keeping the job. And if your job is secure, great news, but you are now worried about getting the job done while managing kids and childcare and homeschooling. And that's not the end. You thought it can get worse, but it might. Actually, it will. I'm sure internet will be crashing on us. And in these challenging times, we need to train our resilience, and it can be trained. The challenge here is that our kids will be watching us 24/7. And as you know, I don't know how old are your kids, but they never do what we say, they do what we do. So the opportunity here is to lead by example and teach your kids a life lesson in resilience. You might be learning in the way. I'm definitely learning many new things about being a working mom. And I think it's great for kids to see us trying our best. And I will present you the 3 tips for building resilience. There are many more, but these are the 3 that you can easily take away and start right after that webinar. The first thing is assume that working from home with kids will last until September. I'm certain that schools are not going to reopen until September. Nurseries might, but assuming this, that you are in working from home with kids for 4 months creates certainty in your brain and frees your brain to be a creative problem solver. Resilient people, they focus on the things that they can change and accept that there are things that they can't change. And by assuming this, you create certainty and your brain has a clear goal to plan for. And if childcare or schools reopen earlier, that will be a bonus. This is the psychologist's top tool on managing anxiety: control what you can and let go of the rest. And invite your family and your team into this perspective. And that's what I call by share your mindset. You don't have to convince them, but tell them that you are starting to plan from this standpoint so that they actually understand your vision of the world. The second tip is recharge your batteries. You might have seen the Maslow's hierarchy of needs before. Internet and Wi-Fi are often added as the ground layer before even food and sleep, before the physiological needs. The idea of this pyramid is that your basic physiological and safety needs must be met before you can start thinking about others or anything else. And at the moment, the safety needs, the second from the bottom, the orange one, they are really shaken. We are worried about the health, about employment, about morality, with like people still trying to behave well. I mean, it's cooling down now, but like in the shops, people snatching all the products. You're worried about your family and children. So I invite you to give extra attention to your physiological needs of your whole household, to give a good cushion to your pyramid. And in the work environment, it is also letting your colleagues and clients to sort out their pyramids. The pyramid is self-explanatory, but I wanted to especially mention 5 things. Sleep, because there will be a temptation to work every day until late when you're like after your kids go to bed. Food, I wanted to mention because we are looking for time-saving solutions, you know, eating at your desk, but actually if you are doing this every day in front of your family and kids, it sends a message of miscommunication. So actually use this opportunity to spend at least to have good quality food to pamper your immunity, and also spend that time with your family. The home office setup, because when you work from home every day for 4 months, small discomforts will accumulate into pains. And this will become a physiological problem, which is at the bottom of the pyramid. So do watch out for your home office setup. Probably your work can help you with that. Then entertainment and hobbies. You might feel like you don't have time for anything, and the hobbies are the last thing, but claim some time for yourself to break the loop of work and home and watching the news about the virus. Doing something else will help you get back some perspective on life balance. And the last thing is connection, because as humans, we feel more resilient when we are together, and we are together in it. We are together in it as families, we are together in it as teams, as projects with clients. And without seeing our teams and clients physically, we need more virtual clues, more verbal clues and honesty to feel that connection. You might want to start some kind of not more ice-breaking conversations with your team, actually, to share stories that you haven't been telling each other. You might even find that after this lockdown, you get to know your teammates better than ever before. You might also find new ways to connect with your partner and kids because you will be at home 24/7. I mean, the other side of this is that this relationship will also be under a lot of strain and heating up because you'll have less time separately. And the third tip I wanted to share is notice the positives in your life. As humans, we are hardwired to notice problems, strengths, and weaknesses. There is a great TED talk, and I'm going to send the link in the resources. And it says that negative emotions seem to stick to us like Velcro, while positive emotions bounce off like Teflon. And from an evolutionary perspective, this served us well, because when a cave woman comes out of her cave and she sees a tiger on one side and a rainbow on the other, then she will focus on the tiger, rightly so. But we don't have many tigers or any tigers to look out for these days. Still, we are bombarded with stressful messages, and I'm talking about the hundreds of messages about the virus I get daily, and our brain gets them all as tiger signals. I'm not saying you to ignore the news or not to evaluate the negatives in your life, but resilient people, they do not diminish the negative, but they manage to tune into the good. So I would say two sub advices kind of in this point: tune down the volume of the virus news to one daily update from a reliable resource, and find the three good things that had happened to you that day. Practice sharing the three good things at the end of every day with your family. This gratitude practice, some people find fluffy, but actually it is scientifically proven to work. It's like practicing your optimism. And in 2005, that was a study which lasted 6 months, and people who were practicing gratitude showed higher levels of happiness and less depression. And it's actually quite a good tool for our family, even with our 3 and 6 year old. I mean, they can already reflect on what they liked about the day, and we do this when they go to sleep. And I noticed that every day one thought comes back to me. I have a neighbor, Jack. He's 93. He is the nicest man and like a granddad to my kids, but he lives alone. And now he can't have visitors. He's even advised not to leave his apartment, although I see him sometimes going out. We can only call him, and we can't help him much, We can't even bring him groceries because, like, if we touch the groceries, potentially the like whatever packages can be contaminated. So every day I feel grateful for my family, that we are together, that we have each other. Usually in this tender moment, my boys start a fight or trap their fingers somewhere, but still it is, there are more positives in having a family. I know it is a challenge, and you joined this webinar to get some tips on actually how to, it is hard. It is much harder with kids, but see the opportunities and the positives in there. So that's the 3 tips on resilience. Do we have any questions?
Don't have anything in the chat just yet, so maybe we'll
Yes.
carry on and maybe we can pick up in a bit. So I'm going to talk through 3 tools today. And firstly, it's about accessing your inner wisdom, a resource that's already in you to navigate these tough times. The second is about designing a virtual team and how you need to be together in this virtual way. And the thirdly is a virtual meeting structure. There's just a few differentiators to how you would meet in person. So I'm going to start off actually with when Anya and I coach, we're always talking to people about their goals. What do they want to achieve? Now that's the doing part of coaching, whereas we also focus on who you are being to achieve your goals. And just building on the resilience notes there that Anya has given us, I just wanted to share with you a really powerful tool that you can take away with you today. And I'm actually going to ask you to go on just a couple of minutes guided visualization with me, because I'd like to give you a tool that I call access to your inner leader. Some people call it your inner wisdom, your inner CEO, your captain. There is a resource within you that already knows the answers, even though we live in a time with way too many questions. So I would like to invite you now to just sit back in your chair. You don't have to take notes. You've got time to take notes afterwards. You can always listen to the recording again as well. And I just want to invite you to close your eyes and just relax and just connect with what I'm saying. And whatever comes up is right. Don't judge it. It doesn't matter what comes up. It's there. It's what your brain is telling you right now. So just go with it. Just go with the flow for a moment. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And on the exhale, just relax again. And as you take another deep breath, feel back into your memory. And it can be a really distant memory or a really recent one, just yesterday perhaps. And seek a time when you were in your full power, when you were absolutely alive, and you just didn't care what anyone thought of you. You were in full flow. Your gut feel and your intuition were in tune, and the results were fulfilling and super satisfying. Everything was harmonious. You were in sync with what was happening and with those around you. You didn't question yourself or think twice. You could be both impulsive and totally in control. It was you on your best day. Now, as I say, don't judge whatever comes to mind. Whatever is there is correct. Just enjoy remembering this state. And really explore the landscape of whatever's sprung into your mind. Where are you? How does this state feel? Where does it live physically in your body? Something could be going on in your stomach, or your heart's beating a bit faster, or your fingertips might be tingling. or there might be a warmth in your chest. Just tune in for a second and feel what it's like to be in that flow. Maybe there's an image that comes to mind. It might be a person, it might be of you, it might be of the place, maybe just a texture or a colour. Can you give this feeling, this experience, a name? What would you like to call it? And if nothing comes to mind immediately, maybe the emotion that was attached to it. Now blink your eyes open and just take a moment to jot down some of the things that came up for you and lock that experience in. What I would love for you to do as a result is to find what we call in coaching a structure to remind you of this state every day. And that can be a post-it just on the side of your laptop, or it can be a screensaver if it's an image. Or maybe there's just a little trinket, something, a piece of jewelry you were wearing or you'd like to wear to remind you of that state, to remind you that you have inner wisdom and flow in times of stress, that you can be that person, you can choose to be there. Because I'm going to ask you to do some really quite weird things. They're quite unnatural for us to do in this next couple of sections, because we're in a very weird space. And so it's going to need you to be different. And so as you're just locking that in, I would like to remind you, as you've probably all seen this before, of, I love this, she's just so confident. This is what is going to happen to you, probably quite regularly in the coming weeks. This chap is really trying his absolute best to ignore everything that's going on behind him, but God bless him, he's not getting away with it. And my dears, neither will you. So, I am going to share with you a couple of ideas about how you can design this new way of being, of working from home with kids. I would like to encourage all of you to, in your next group meeting, or even if this could be your one-to-one meetings, and this could be with your client, this could be with your team, this could be with your boss. It's useful in every single scenario. It's about being very explicit and conscious with how you need to work now. And my first request is that you explicitly tell people what your home working situation is. I have 3 kids and a cat, and sometimes the dog goes mental when the mailman comes. So those things might happen. You're just normalizing what the interruption will be. And what you're going to do about it when it does actually happen. Well, I'm always going to be on mute so that my kids, if they do run in, don't distract the whole meeting. And if they really need attention, I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to sort them out and then I'll be back. It sounds very simple, but if we don't address it right there and then within the group, then it just gets very awkward, much like that video. So, in the same vein, as you're going around the group and all sharing what your home working situations are, you can also start to introduce what you can expect from me. Well, I do have the 3 kids and the cat, actually. So, I am going to only be responding to emails and messages between these core hours, because that's what I've decided with my partner. Annie's going to actually give us some tips on that later about how to design the time. And share that. So share that with your team. You can still expect the same creativity and collaboration from me, but actually, if any of you need me, I'm here as another shoulder to cry on if you need it. So be explicit with what they can expect from you. And in return, my third point, what I need from you guys. I need permission to ask questions. Because sometimes I know it sounds so simple, but we don't sometimes feel that we have that permission to ask questions, to clarify. And the communication is going to have to be so crystal clear now, because you are not in that direct contact anymore. I think this is personally something that everyone should actually kind of design into their meetings anyway. But you may have at least half of the crowd on your virtual meetings might be introverted. So this might be really awkward. Seeing people face to face was already a bit intimidating, but actually in this virtual world, I don't know how to get heard. So how do I get heard? And sometimes I need more time to think. So do I have opportunities to come back to you with my thoughts from item 2 when we're now on item 5 of the agenda? It needs a design. You will also start to encounter things like Wi-Fi dropouts. What then? Design that. Maybe there's also an audio dial-in that's connected to your VC. So maybe you're hedging your bets with a couple of different ways of contacting and connecting to that meeting. I say here, choose a leader to facilitate because it is an awkward way of working. If everyone is on mute, which is highly advisable, we have you on mute today, because of background distractions, do you need to design that we will raise our hands, or that the chat buttons will be used so that I get to speak next? You will need someone to very consciously facilitate this with you. And also, this is a bit of a cheeky one, but actually, if you do have a leader, this next point is, I'm fully aware that all of you probably have all of your emails up at the moment, and your Chrome, and several other Excel spreadsheets that are all running behind this virtual conversation. The multitasking can be very distracting, and at a time such as this, we need to be fully present with what's directly in front of us so that messages don't get missed. So if you do have a leader, perhaps they can be calling on people as and when you're going along, not only to make people feel included, but also maybe to direct the conversation as needed. You will also need to design how often you need to meet. Meetings are very time consuming, and you guys don't have time, you've got kids. So how often do you meet? How do you chunk work together? How are you going to batch work and keep communicating about how things are progressing? Again, a very explicit, attentive design. And also ask people to come prepared to a meeting. Sounds like bloody obvious, really, but actually time is of the essence and efficiency is key here. So distribute the pre-reads. Make sure that you've come with your update fully prepared so that you can just get the information and dip out again. So I would love for you guys to take away a conscious design to your next meeting. And just kind of my next piece here is actually about the structure of a meeting. And really, I just want to pull out a couple of things on here before handing over to Anya. And really speaking, it's about having a very clear agenda on every single call. Again, I know that you probably will in other meetings, but it's really what are the required outcomes, and state it from the start. You may only have that hour. There is no choice to just continue on endlessly. So what are you trying to achieve? You have your checkpoints. Checkpoint at the beginning to design with people if there's a redesign that needs to happen. In the middle to make sure everyone is on board and up to speed and on the same page. And then again at the end, to which I'm going to go into in a minute. I think there should always be a time check with 10 minutes before an end of a meeting. Again, anyway, but now more than ever when people do have to really drop off, what then needs to be fast forwarded and spoken about today, and what can be taken out and put onto the next day's agenda. So time check beforehand, and then use that last bit, maybe even the last 5-10 minutes, to recap. Have everyone state exactly what they are taking away from this meeting. We do this a lot as coaches because if people have said it, it means it's ingrained into their memory. If we're telling them, it doesn't go in the same way. So fully ask people to explain what it is that they're taking away. And also what their plans are if things do go awry, which invariably things will. Contingency does need to be built into all plans. That's just the way of the world at the moment. And then maybe there's a quick reminder about what the home situations are and when you can be expecting answers if you do message. So that's kind of where I am with structures and designs. I hope that really helps you to at least have a few more very pointed conversations and be directive with your communications now that we live in this virtual world. I'm going to hand over to Anya now, who's going to come up with some more practical tips and time management. Thanks, Anya.
Sorry, I was struggling there a bit with my mute and unmute. Yeah. But at least it was quiet. Yes, thank you, Amelia. So we will now move to our third part on time management. Your life right now might look like on this picture. I love it. I definitely feel like this sometimes. Managing work and kids, like you have no, I don't know who are you on this picture. Probably the blue one when you're working, like with a broken ankle, trying to read. And managing work and kids and homeschooling and all the chores, it's going to be hard. With the best tools, I mean, the settling into the new routines will be hard, especially if you have young kids. We really struggle without any outside space. Very difficult if your kids have special needs, or you're a single parent, or your partner is a key person and away a lot, doing a very important job right now, and you're managing home alone. I will focus in my tips kind of on my family situation, but then I will give some pointers for our situations as well. Families with kids tend to live by schedule, so the best advice is to create a new routine for your new normal for all members of your household, with work duty and home duty shifts for working adults. I call it the wall plan, and we'll show you mine on the next slide. Mine is made for 2 working parents. And for those more challenging households where there is only one parent at home or kids have special needs. So I included some points here. You still have access to childcare and schools. Is it possible to have a live-in helper with a low risk of catching the virus, having an unpaid leave? But then if we're here for a long haul, this might be a difficult option. And in any case, in all cases, the best is to have a very open conversation with your HR and your line manager about your situation. On the next slide, so here is my family's wall plan, consisting of the home duty plan. This is our kind of daily plan, Monday to Friday, and the weekly plan. We are a family of 4, 2 working adults with 2 kids, 6 and 3 years old. The daily plan, the home duty plan, is driven by the homeschooling needs of our 6-year-old, and we try to involve a 3-year-old into that. He does some scribbles, and then he usually finds more interesting things to do. The daily plan is divided into two because we have English and French curricula to follow, so your plan will look more straightforward, possibly. I recommend you do your wall plan in a digital format and print it out. You're bound to keep revising it until it settles in. This is, I think, our fourth. The wall plan is up on the wall in the kitchen where even the 6-year-old can read it. My husband and I agreed on work duty shifts, Monday to Friday, and who is on work duty has this quiet time to focus on his task, and who is not on work duty is on home duty, in charge of the kids, and uses the home duty plan, the daily plan, as the guide. Obviously, kids don't always stick to the plan. And if we can't interest them with the school program, I mean, we do something else. But having a plan removes the need to think what's next. When you've just got off from your work duty and you've just started this home duty shift, and your head is spinning and you still have some thoughts about work, it's good to have the plan as your guide. You just look at it, okay, what's next? Okay, it's almost like call grandma time. And then when kids are happy playing or it's their screen time, we both manage to do some work. And the one who is technically on home duty responds to all the kids calling, trapped fingers, change cartoons, kind of all those important things. My husband and I have tried 4 different shifts. I put them down like in the weekly plan section. You need to really try what works for you. We tried 2-hour shifts at first, but for us it meant rescheduling too many regular meetings. Then we tried flexible on demand on the day, but it was becoming a bit of a hot potato with the home duty and with the kids. And most recently, we've been practicing fixed shifts planned around our regular meetings, but that created some shifts that were 1 hour long and some shifts that were 6 hours long. And we both felt that we wanted more evenness to our day. And when you have just 1 hour, we both find it really hard to concentrate, but it is so personal. And we are now moving to AM and PM shifts, like before lunch and after lunch. That means you have about 4.5 hours before lunch and 5.5 hours after lunch. So review your schedules. So try just start with one thing. They say with younger kids, people say it's easier with smaller shifts. I mean, it didn't work in our environment, so just try. And feedback every evening and review your schedules for the next day every evening. And on Sunday evening, review the coming week. And also use these review times to mention the 3 good things that we talked about in the first part about building resilience. Another tip worked really well is share your key meetings with your partner's work calendar and block out the time openly, or you can block the information like what actually is that meeting, but at least your partner's work will not be able to move any meetings when like you have an important webinar that you're presenting at. If you have longer shifts, consider using an out of office, saying, I will definitely get back to you by the end of the day, or I get back to you today in the morning or in the afternoon, so that your team and clients don't have to remember, because everyone will have so much flexibility, but might help sending an out of office for people waiting for a response. And lastly, I wanted to share my insights into the kids' schedule. I don't know the age of your kids, but if they are homeschooling, focus on the core subjects. You're not teachers, it's not your strong side. And just choose some things for them to help them progress and not get bored like all the time. Although I think boredom sparks creativity, actually leaving them to free play is a great thing. But focus on the core subjects. The PE I found is vital, because without enough movement, my kids started to wake up at 5 a.m. So we now have a PE in the morning, like at home, we do different things, whether follow a YouTube channel or we just create our own. Or my 6-year-old is my yoga teacher because they have yoga at school. So I have his private lessons on yoga. And then we have a 1 hour walk in the evening, at least keeping distance, like as per the official advice. We also started to give kids more responsibility around the house. And this is a great opportunity actually for them to raise up to their age. I think I definitely sometimes intervene too much. I think they can do more than I expect of them. And actually that helps you. You can outsource many tasks. Uh, Involving grandparents in homeschooling, I mean, you've definitely thought about that. But I wanted to mention that it is also a good way to connect with your family because we're now all separated. One of our grandmas is on the very strict lockdown in Rome, in Italy at the moment. And so she sees her half an hour with her grandchildren as a special occasion. She dresses up for that. Also consider other people who can help. Godparents, extended family, single neighbors, friends, other school parents. So I'm thinking about the free resources, not necessarily paid help. Also, every day we call a relative, and it goes back to my point about connection. We're so disconnected from everyone else, and so many of our family are single, and we have some single neighbors. So we just check up on at least one person a day. And we commit to 3 meals a day together without work distractions. And this is our family time. And it helps to break this work loop because you will be waking up in the morning into your office. Also on the next slide, consider where you can save time. It's all self-explanatory. I'm not going to talk much about that. So the second thing, so after you have your home plan, these are my tips on how to be efficient with your work time. So when it is your work shift, when it is your work duty time, and supposedly your partner can hold the kids and you have this as your quiet time. So everyone at home ideally has a dedicated home office place, both adults and school children, just for practical things of just not looking for it, not spending time organizing it every day. Keep your papers high up if your kids are young. Keep your important papers high up so to avoid any accidents. And my biggest tip on how to be efficient with your work, I think we are used to working on demand, especially if you're working in the physical office environment. People will just come into your office and ask you something, and time goes by just discussing these things, and but then you have the time when you're in an office environment. Now that we are doing shifts and there are less flexibility, actually you need more flexibility because your kids might have accidents or you need to break up a fight. So you need to have more flexibility at work. So I think we need to move to batch work so that you have a pipeline, a work in waiting that doesn't need to be done within the next 48 hours, that you have those 48 hours to deliver your work. Earlier, if you can manage it earlier, that's great. But so that people plan in advance, they split the tasks that don't need meetings every day, and you have less meetings and more quiet working time at home. when you have your batch, prioritize. On the right, there is a tool called the quadrants, from the book of 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. In the resources, I will send a link to a video explaining how to use that tool. But it's in our times, we really need to concentrate on important things, and those are the top 2 quadrants. Important urgent things go first, and then important not urgent things. Many professions have nice to haves, especially in consulting and in customer care. We do a lot of nice to haves. I think we don't have the time for nice to haves at the moment. List them, start a list of like someday maybe. Put those nice to haves in the someday maybe list, and you will review it when you have time, or probably forget it altogether. Focus on the important things. Also, start your day offline. Do not check emails, because emails will lead you. Emails are someone else's agenda. It's not your agenda. You have your batch of work. You have prioritized your tasks. You know what is the first task you need to focus on. Don't check emails until you've done that task. Agree, like Amelia was talking, agree within your team what is the call for urgency. I think best is these days not to use emails too often, but actually call and hear someone's voice. Focus on one thing at a time. We're all multitasking. Actually, it works both for this advice is both for home and for work. Like, focus on one thing at a time. If distracted, just write down your distracting thoughts and go back to your original task. And plan in the evening for the next day. And plan 2 things. One thing which you need to do first on your work duty, when you need your computer, when you need quiet time, you need your focus. And then another task which you can attempt to do on your home duty if kids are happy playing, for example. Have a pen and paper, and if you have some ideas coming in, just jot it down on this piece of paper to optimize your home duty time as well. And keep your team and clients informed, of course. Then on the next slide, the third tip is differentiate work and home. As I said, we will be waking up every day into work. So create some differences. Dress for work also, because you will be showing up on, oh, this is my 3-year-old calling me from behind the door.
I love it. We designed it well.
Yeah, we designed it well. So dress for work, not only because you might have video calls yourself, but you might appear on video calls of your partner as your kids. Use your dedicated workplace. Block out work-free times. For example, for us, there are meals, 3 meals a day, and sometime on weekends, or 2 days of weekends. I mean, you choose, but block out some work-free time so that it is clear. And the latest addition to our wall plan is a special Friday dinner. It's been 2 weeks we're at home, the 4 of us, and all days became one. I couldn't tell a Sunday from a Tuesday. So we're doing crêpe. My husband is French and he does crêpe on Friday evening. And so just to mark that it is the end of the official working week. And lastly, keep it human. We're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. And we all have struggles. So be kind to yourself, and it will help you to be more empathetic to others, and actually to be more collaborative and more inventive in how to work in this new environment, and how to be with your family in this new environment. Have water cooling conversations. with your team and with your family. With your team, don't only discuss work. I think there is I think the first intention is, because there is so much less time working, we want to just do work and have that done. But that makes the relationships really dry. Have those live chats. My husband's work have weekly team chats in the evening where they actually change their workplace a bit so that it's a different angle on the video camera. Someone get a beer, like they get a drink, and they just share stories from personal life. That situation we saw on the video will happen to you, or like my son now crying behind the closed door. Um, and I noticed we tend to get fixed on people we don't know because we're naturally curious. So if your family is always like on the background, introduce them to your team, introduce them to your clients, resolve that curiosity for them. And until this is resolved, seeing your wife or husband and kids passing in the background will be distracting. And once you introduce them, they will just see it as part of the family, and also your family will will act normally on camera. The family relationships will be heating up on the other hand, because parents and kids are now 24/7 together. Our work relationships get thinner and might cause miscommunication and emotional detachment. So, relationship over job done. If you feel you're starting to get frustrated at your kids for not doing the school homework, if at your team for not delivering, at your boss for not being understanding, think long term. Think of what you can realistically, humanly achieve. And better if you can still tolerate each other when the lockdown is off, when the lockdown ends. Be flexible yourself and allow others time to settle into this new routine. So, relationship over jobs done. Nobody's perfect. We're all trying our best. We're humans. So, remember about the pyramid of human needs, and start with yourself. And the very last thing is, this worldwide lockdown will bring a breakthrough to how we learn, work, and communicate. It's very interesting to see how the world is going to change after that. And it's good that we're all in the same boat. I think because there is no other option but just to think of creative solutions. And we will close on this thought. Do connect to us and reach out to us on LinkedIn or by email. We have our contacts on the next slide, or you can find them on LinkedIn. Subscribe to our channels, because inevitably we will be developing more on this with our clients and from like in our personal experience. Both of us will be offering more kind of deep dive resources. Amelia is focusing on leadership and team coaching. I'm focusing more on individuals and working parents. So subscribe to our resources, see if there is anything that interests you. And also, if there are any topics that you want to learn more about or in more detail, do let us know, again, by LinkedIn or by email, and we can brainstorm it together and deliver another webinars, and probably of a shorter format. I think 1 hour is a commitment, so it can be like 10-15 minute deep dive sessions, but into very specific questions. Amelia, do you have anything to join? Do I have any questions?
We don't have any questions in the chat at the moment. I don't know if anyone wants to unmute themselves. They are very welcome to. I just kind of want to reiterate, this is going to be a trial and error era, and full permission to fall flat on your face and for things to not work, and share your stories, and we all learn together, stronger together, really. I think this is almost a great defining moment for humanity, for put our arms around each other, very theoretically, obviously at a 2 meter distance, and to really just share, keep sharing, keep talking, keep connected, and stay sane.
Yeah, that's a good advice. Stay sane. I included in one of the slides, like I saw a video, like one of those jokey videos about a mom of 4 complaining about schooling, and this gave me a perspective. Yes, like we're trying to be safe from the coronavirus. Let's not die of the distance learning. We expectations of ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us today. We had people coming in and out. We will be sending this recording. You can now share this recording. We actually made it on purpose without video so that it can be made public. And wishing you and your family to stay well.
Yes. And good luck.
Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.